Story time. A recent conversation pointed out to me that even though I love the stories that other people share of what God's doing in their life or has done in their life, I don't very often share my own. And I think that's because they either feel too private for myself or to someone else. But I'm realizing that there are ways to share stories that can maintain people's privacy. And then sometimes I also worry that they sound like bragging or something like that. But if we're truly sharing testimonies of what God did, then it's not bragging. So here goes. This was a couple weeks ago, and I was in the grocery store getting ready to check out in an area with a whole bunch of self-checkouts. And I was about to pay for my groceries, and the thought crossed my mind to wonder if there was anybody else there who God wanted me to pay for their groceries that day. And I glanced up around at the other people who were all doing the self-checkouts, and my attention was caught by an older woman that was like on the opposite side and down from me. And I thought, Lord, is that you telling me to pay for her groceries? I don't know. And I didn't feel like I heard an answer. I didn't have any certainty, but I remembered that the last time I wondered that and felt that, I hadn't paid for anybody's groceries. And then I had regretted it the whole way home, thinking that I might have completely missed a blessing from God for myself or from someone else just because I didn't know. And I had told myself then it is so much better to just do it and it doesn't do any harm than it is to possibly miss a chance from God. So I remember thinking that, but I don't really remember thinking anything beyond that. I just kind of went into autopilot, I guess. I paid for my groceries. I walked over to her, and the words that came out of my mouth, because she looked up at me when I got close to her, like, what are you doing? And the words that came out of my mouth were, "May I give you a gift? I would like to pay for your groceries." And as I said that, I hesitated a minute, I think, and then I think I started trying to touch my phone to the terminal to pay, because I have that turned on my phone for Android Pay or Google Pay, whatever it's called. And anyway, she just kind of hesitated, and then she whispered, "What?" And I looked up at her again, and I repeated again, "I would like to give you a gift. May I pay for your groceries?" And I was like out of the corner of my eye, still trying to get the payment to process, and it wasn't. And she was just staring at me. And again, she whispered again, "What did you say?" And so I stopped, I looked her dead in the eyes, and I said it again a third time. "I want to give you a gift. May I pay for your groceries?" And about that time, I realized it wasn't processing my payment because the Pay Now button hadn't been pressed. And that was because she still had 3 things on the counter. Some places let you pay before you're done scanning everything. This one did not. So anyway, I said, "Here, let's finish scanning the rest of these things so the payment will go through." And I took the last 3 little things that were already sitting there and ran them over the barcode scanner. And she kind of mechanically reached out and put them in her bag. And then I hit the Pay Now button, and I touched my phone to the terminal, and it gave me the blue check mark that it was paid, and the receipt started printing out. And she kind of reached down and took the receipt and looked up at me. And then she threw herself in my arms, started crying, and said, "Now I know God sees me and He hasn't forgotten me." And I don't remember what I said at that point. It wasn't a long conversation. I choked up. I said something, and then we parted ways. But for days afterwards, a couple things really God impressed on me. One was that I didn't know if it was Him telling me to do that, but I did it anyway. And what it did for her showed me so clearly, okay, that was God. And so if there's anybody out there like me who has heard so many times when God speaks, you'll know it. That might be true for some people. It is not true for all of us. But for those of us that it's not true, He wants us to just trust that He is leading us. Even when we aren't sure if that impulse, that thought that went through our mind is Him. Obviously, if it's not scriptural, don't do it. It's God. But if you know your heart is in the right place before God, humble, wanting to be led by Him, and then trust that He's leading you, because He can do amazing things even in the middle of our God, I'm not sure. I don't know how to recognize your voice. I don't know how to hear you. I'm not sure what's going on here. He can do amazing things in the middle of that, through that, with that, because He is God, and it's all about what He can do, not what we know and what we can do. And the second thing that really stood out to me was the fact that I could have talked with her probably for hours, trying to tell her and minister to her that God did see her and hadn't forgotten her. And it probably wouldn't have got very far. And yet, in 1 or 2 minutes, less than that really, of me paying for her groceries, of God prompting me to pay for her groceries, of God stepping into her life through me, because like I said, I wasn't sure. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any booming voice from God telling me, do this and tell her this or whatever. But just in that 1 minute, that one small action, it communicated to her and assured her and gave her an assurance that hours of conversation would not have given her. And that just awed me, the way God can do that. Take a little bit of obedience, take a willing heart from one person and use it to speak something so powerful to someone else. She did tell me in a couple sentences what she was going through in her life right then. And it was rough. And she needed to know that God saw her, that God hadn't forgotten her. I don't know anything else about her. I don't know her name. But I got to be on the front row seat of God touching someone in the grocery store in the checkout line. And this is what the servants of God get to witness and get to be part of. And it's amazing. So that's my little story for today, and I'm going to try to share more little stories as they happen. God bless.